Welcome to Charter's Local Edition, broadcasting from the state capitol in Helena, just before the 2015 legislative session goes into session in January. We've just completed the legislative caucuses and leadership elections, and I'm Mark Staples, your host, and I'm excited to introduce our next guest, who moments ago was chosen as President of the Senate, and not only President of the Senate, but I think historically the first ever woman President of the Montana Senate. Debby Barrett from Dillon, Senator. Madam President,
thank
congratulations.
You. Hey, thank you.
Welcome. That must be
Thank
exciting.
It's exciting.
You are 2 feet above the ground. Is that about right?
Just about right. It hasn't sunk in yet.
No.
I'm still humbled and terribly excited and anxious to go to work. And
Well, what got you into this field? Tell me a little about yourself. You're from Dillon. Have you always been from Dillon? Are you?
I've been in Dillon since 1963. Originally born in Hays, Kansas, and been in Montana since I was 5 years old.
Tell us a little about your background.
Okay.
Our first woman president of the Senate.
Yeah.
You need to know more about her.
Yeah. Well, I'm from the ranch.
A ranch community.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from the ranch community. Got married 42 years ago and moved to the ranch. I was a stay-at-home mom and took care of my daughter, and she went to work with me. And on that ranch, it's 40 miles southwest of Dillon. It's right on the Lewis and Clark Trail, right where they buried their boats and walked to the top of the Continental Divide, hoping to see, I think, the Pacific coast, and saw what would someday be Idaho. And I think they were just a little daunted that day.
Rather than undaunted.
Yes, yeah. And that's right where I live. And so those issues, wildlife, livestock, agriculture, water, are the things that I have worked on.
And are they the things that got you into politics?
They
this
are
is your
the
fourth
things,
term, so
this is my fourth term.
And
They
last.
are the things that brought me to the legislature. When we ranch, we have the ranch I'm on is very old, and we were there before the Forest Service and before the BLM. But we have used the same public land all of these years. And so it was the public land issues that I would attend meetings for every species, for every issue, and it just about became a full-time job. And then term limits happened, and
was your predecessor Chuck Swisgood?
My senator at that time was Chuck Swisgood. He was termed out. My representative was Representative Tash, so he ran for the Senate, and I ran for the House.
Oh, so this is your
In
fourth
2000.
term in the Senate, but you were here
Yeah,
before
I
that.
was 8 years in the House. I am termed out. This is my last legislative session
This is your 16th
ever,
year.
ever. Yeah, this is the start.
Well, what do you, I mean, now, 2 hours ago, you were rank and file senator.
Yeah.
Now you're the president of the Senate, so whatever you hope to accomplish has now been multiplied 100-fold. Let's talk about your major things, because we had you fill this out before you became the president. Are they still the same? You wanted to talk about budget amendments that the executive branch applies for.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I will use for an example Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And they had a study, an interim study, and they are broke. They are out of money. They want to increase their licensing fees, their hunting fees, fishing fees, license. And that's understandable. However, during the 18-month interim,
Between sessions,
there comes to the state, to the agencies, federal grants. And we are not in session, so it is the governor at that time that kind of takes over the legislature's job. Instead of legislative oversight, it's governor oversight, and he will grant Fish, Wildlife, and Park the authority to spend that money, and they will buy more land.
And you want to change that?
Well, and they're broke. Why would you buy more land if you're going to have to deal with the weeds, the roads, the maintenance of that land, be responsible, be good stewards? And in these budget amendments, there is also no money set aside for maintenance and operations. So they
to change that, does it require a statutory change?
So, yeah, that would.
Do you anticipate legislation to that effect?
Well, we can bring it, and I think it will be vetoed. I think it's a wonderful deal for the governor right now, but I think that it gets his agencies in trouble. They're spending too much money, and then they come to the legislature for money, and they have spent millions and millions of dollars of federal funding. The governor is also, that's what he wants to start the schools, his early education, early childhood education with a government grant. And then when that money is gone, I guess then he will just turn to the legislature, who had no authority in starting this program. It was started without the legislature. Then he will come to us and say, by the way, in a year or two, we need this funding to pay for this ongoing program that I started with a budget amendment.
I thought that pre-K, the 4-year-olds, and that program, I thought that specifically required legislative approval, and they're already lobbying for that. Is that not your understanding?
I am not on the education committee, but there was a letter sent by Governor Bullock to the education committee telling that he applied for this grant and he would do it, and that's how the program would start. So, yeah, it was started by him, and no legislative oversight or authority or input.
How about, speaking of state government, you said last session the executive prioritized legislation and spending to support the public sector and raises. What is needed now is the same effort to benefit citizens and industries in the private sector. Correct? Is that?
Yes,
do you want to elaborate on that?
That's what I said. Yes.
Madam President.
When we left the session, we had several bills in the and they were sent to the governor, and he cherry-picked through them and kept some and vetoed some, and the ones he vetoed were things like the infrastructure help to Eastern Montana. He also vetoed pay increases for the people working in our rest homes in the state, and his priorities were money into the pensions without reform, state employee pay plan. And so he's focused on growing the government and spending money, and we need a balance. We need all Montana workers, not just the ones in the unions or working for the state, to be beneficiaries after each session.
Well, given what you've just said, and obviously there might be some different opinions coming in, are you optimistic that compromise can be reached, or?
Well, Mark, we're all here to communicate, to negotiate, and from the negotiations, from honest, open negotiations, that's where you get a compromise. And I would love to sit down with the governor. I'm going to be working with the House leadership and with my whole leadership, and the stuff that our caucus, the priorities that come from our caucus to us, you bet I would bring those forward and I would work with them.
You mentioned, I guess we've got 1 minute. I was going to get into water. We'll have to say, well,
there's not enough time in the world
we wouldn't
for
handle
water.
that in a minute. So I'll tell you, you write that again, congratulations on being, I believe, somebody will correct me on this,
Yeah.
I think the first woman president, Carol Williams was the first
majority leader,
but
yes.
I think you're the first woman elected president, so what a historic footnote for,
I'm excited.
Yeah, that is. That's
really
wonderful,
excited.
and it's going to be a lot of work, though.
Oh, I know that. I came into this with my eyes open, and I've got thick skin, and I'm tough, and I can take what people dish out, and I really want just a smooth, respectful session for everyone.
Well, I think everybody in Montana wants that, and so I thank you again. Thank you for serving. It is an easy job, and there are moments of glory, but there is moments of gory too.
Oh yeah.
And as you say, you're tough, and you live up to it. I wish you the best of luck with your goals, and I hope we all want a productive session.
Yeah.
And I thank you all for tuning in to Charter's Local Edition. Please support these legislators. You don't have to agree with them on every issue, but let them know what you're thinking, and whether you agree with them or not, thank them for serving, for doing our business so we can all have a state that we can live in and appreciate and love like we do. Charter thanks you. Thanks for tuning in.